Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, coming to you live from a Wednesday afternoon, and we got to preview the final Chicago Bears preseason game, and Roquan Smith is going to be starting inside of this game, so we'll talk about everyone else that you got to be looking forward to as well. But also, if you're watching out there on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. We are going live after the Bears game when they go against the Cleveland Browns on Saturday. And on Sunday, we are also going to be breaking down who we think is going to be on the 53-man roster. Johnny PayPal's coming in to help out with that. So make sure to like and subscribe. Rate 5 stars if you're listening to us out there in podcast world. Just search for Unbearable Sports, and you can find us anywhere you get your podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the final preview. But before we do that, let's talk about some of the cuts that went on. I haven't been able to break this down. And guys, there's not a lot to break down with these cuts. The Bears, on Tuesday, when they need to get down to 80 people, they cut Julian Davenport, Daz Newsome, Jake Vargas, defensive tackle LaCale London, and cornerback Bo Peep Keys. Not a huge surprise, really. Bo Peep Keys struggled, and he was kind of picked apart in the last preseason game. Jake Vargas was just kind of added in so that we had somebody out there at least to just kind of take some snaps at the fullback spot. But also Julian Davenport, not too surprising. It seems like there wasn't a good spot for him as a veteran on this team. And also Daz Newsome, he dropped the opportunity. I still don't regret us drafting him. He had a lot of potential, but really the biggest question when we drafted him was the hands. And to be honest, we didn't see any of that. Fortunately, dropped his way out. Sad to see, but maybe the Falcons pick him up. I know that's kind of the joke, but in all seriousness, maybe he makes their practice squad because of the pace connection over there. And LaCale London hasn't looked that great. So yeah, but I also agree with Reload out in the comments. I think that we'll see who ends up winning the game. I think that the Bears are going to end up winning this game because we're going to have the starters in for the first half. That's what Matt Eberflus is saying. So I'm excited to see what the Bears end up doing. But let's get this show on the road, shall we? So usually we break down first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, because really the thing to watch in preseason games isn't really about are we winning. I mean, it's key when we see are we winning from the stance of the overall, like the first strings in, like does the first string look good overall? But with this, it's really going to be, I think the first half is going to be the starters. And then the second half, kind of that quarters 3 and 4, that's where it's going to be a toss-up. Are they really going to be playing more of these backups to kind of see, well, who's going to be battling for the rosters? Or it's going to be very curious and interesting for the final people at the very end of this, of the game. But let's start out with the starters. So they should be playing the first and second quarters. Now, the first person to be on the lookout for is simple. It's simple every single game, but it's Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the future at the quarterback position. So obviously he comes in number one, and just look out for number one. Some of the stuff I'm looking out for, is he going to be quicker with his release, quicker with the football? That's always my question with him. But I just want to see, are we going to get a touchdown? What do you guys think? I think we are. We got pretty darn close last time. And that's why I think we're going to get a TD. But are we going to be able to run it? And are we going to have our running back out there? My second player to watch is not David Montgomery, because we don't know if David Montgomery is actually going to be out there. It sounds like he is practicing potentially. But Khalil Herbert is the person to watch for me, because number 24 hasn't looked that good. And here's a guy that I know for me, I'm like, who needs David Montgomery when you have a Khalil Herbert and a Treston Ebner? But right now, neither have really truly impressed me at the running back position. Khalil Herbert needs to block better. He needs to show that he can catch better. And also, we kind of focus on that passing game. Khalil Herbert hasn't, actually, this entire running game hasn't looked great, when especially we've been preaching that the running game should be the thing that sends this offense and sets us up so that Justin Fields can throw. So I'm looking at the running backs in particular because we should be able to move the ball. We should be able to run the ball, not just when the third stringers are in, when the first string, second string is in. So I'm turning up the heat on these running backs overall. But the next person who turned up the heat last game that's on my watch list, number 85, tight end Cole Kmet. I'm curious how long he's going to be out there for because we do have Griffin, we do have O'Shaughnessy, but Cole Kmet, ladies and gentlemen, he had an elite grade from PFF. So say what you will about PFF. We'll take it all day when they're rated elite. Cole Kmet graded above a 90, which was one of the highest grades given out to a tight end. Yes, it was just 9 snaps, but still. So hopefully in a larger sample size, he can continue to show that he's not just a Austin Hooper-esque or a Robert Tonyan type, just like a fill in the blank type of tight end. That's just the epitome of average. Hopefully he continues to impress. And that's why he's a big name for me to be watching. But next, I'm kind of grouping these guys up together. The wide receivers, we've been banged up so much. Who are we even going to have out there? And the big person for me to watch on Saturday is Equanimeous St. Brown, number 19. I've been going out here and telling you, hey, Equanimeous St. Brown has looked good in training camp. You listen to other Bears shows out there, they'll tell you the same thing, that Equanimeous St. Brown has looked good in training camp, and he's looked like the number 2 wide receiver. But we haven't seen anything come game day. There's something completely different about training camp and game day. So Equanimeous St. Brown needs to show that. He needs to get some catches out there. He needs to show that, like, I want to go to my Packer friends and say, look what Equanimeous St. Brown's doing. Like, look, let's take a look at number 19. And right now, he's just not showing that. So that's why he's on my watch list, because our wide receivers have been banged up. And one in particular, Velus Jones, chances are he's actually not going to be playing. We'll have to see tomorrow, but he was getting stretched out. So chances are he's not going to be playing overall. But also, let's go over to this offensive line, because this is the other big piece, the big storyline with this first team. Braxton Jones, left tackle, number 70, still on my watch list every single week, because this guy could be our left tackle of the future. He hasn't, I've got to choose my words wisely. He hasn't impressed me, been like, oh my God, this guy's a beast. But he has impressed me in the sense of, this guy's good. This guy is an NFL tackle, and he's showing it day in, day out. So I like what I'm seeing out of Braxton Jones. So kudos to him. And I just want to see a little bit more. I just want to watch more of it. What can I say about that? But then the right side of the line is the one that's getting all the headlines. Teven Jenkins, starting right guard, number 75. And I still think that he becomes that starting right guard. A big tell in this is that Schofield playing with the 2s last game. I think that Teven Jenkins has shown that he's better than Schofield, and he needs to continue to show that and prove that this game. But also another thing to keep in mind too is they were interviewing David Montgomery, and David Montgomery was saying, Teven Jenkins leads the way for me. He just was gushing about Teven Jenkins, how he's a mean guy on the field, but one of the nicest guys off the field. And then last but not least, on my players to watch for the first half, right tackle, Larry Borom. Larry Borom getting a lot of the starting snaps at the right tackle spot, number 75. But I'm not so quick to say he is definitely going to be the starter. I think that there's a very good chance that he is, but there's a slight chance, yet again, very small chance, that maybe Riley Reiff still goes in there, and maybe they're just wanting to see the reps with Teven Jenkins and Larry Borom just to see what that actually looks like. I think that the best thing for the team is to have this young nucleus of people with Larry Borom at right tackle, Jenkins at right guard, because now you kind of have your offensive line for the foreseeable future. It's a very exciting thing, but you want to make sure it's right and not force it. That's the biggest thing. But let me know down in the comments, who do you think is going to start for the Chicago Bears at right tackle? Larry Borom or Riley Reiff? So also just taking a little bit of questions to Reload ask how we feeling about OBJ. Now, OBJ, I saw some of these rumors out there that what if that the Bears might be interested. I saw it coming from kind of those classic rumor accounts, those rumor mills, where sometimes there might be some truth to it, but a lot of times there's not too much. I just don't think that OBJ wants to be a Chicago Bear because he wants to be contending. If we sign OBJ, I'm more than happy with that. I've never really had a problem with OBJ. He's not like Antonio Brown where he's a complete head case, but he's still a smaller head case than Antonio Brown. But I would personally love it if the Bears signed OBJ. And I think overall, though, I think that the Bears might need to start looking at wide receivers because seriously, there's not any healthy wide receivers on this roster. And I believe it was Matt Eberflus was saying this roster might look a lot different at the beginning of the year. And that might be a warning that says, listen, everybody's been banged up. And I know that we've also talked on this show about Will Fuller. And I know the punchline with Will Fuller is, what, is he going to get injured? Well, all of our other wide receivers are injured. So if he's injured, just add him to the pile, I guess. But he gives you a high upside, which is what I kind of like overall. So let's go into this defensive side of the ball. So flipping it over with our first string, this side of the ball, I don't know how many people from this defense are actually going to be starting out there for the entire first half. I think for the offense, it's good to get the reps in. What's nice too is I feel like a lot of us fans were saying, hey, we need the reps, so it's all good. If somebody gets injured, yeah, that's just the way that football goes. But this team right now needs reps. So I think it's a very smart move on Eberflus's behalf. But over on this defense, first person I'm watching, Trevis Gipson, number 99. Trevis Gipson, I'm a big fan of him. But listen, like Trevis Gipson has not looked good. I just looked at the PFF grades. He is the lowest graded player on the Chicago Bears right now. I think his grade was about a 23. Now, PFF grades aren't everything, but if you watch the tape too, he has not looked good. So Trevis Gipson, I just want to see more, especially because this is supposed to be his breakout season. This is supposed to be a big 10-sack year. Maybe it was just going against Charles Cross, I think might have been that right tackle for Seattle that was just giving him fits. But let's see how he plays this game. I still think that he's going to be playing for the entire half. But this next player will be interesting. Roquan Smith, number 58. Basically, I'm watching these linebackers because this is the first time Nicholas Morrow is going to see real game action next to Roquan Smith. That changes things because I can tell you if I'm lining up and right next to me is Matt Adams, I'm going, oh man, now I got to make the big play. Now I have to do everything. But when you have Roquan Smith next to you, you're like, oh, captain, my captain, I will follow you wherever you go, Roquan. I'll just fill in my role. You do your thing and I'll try and do mine. And that's why I think, to me, I just want to see Roquan Smith, number 58, Nicholas Morrow, 53, Joe Thomas, 45. And a big thing, too, is Joe Thomas going to be that Sam linebacker when these starting linebackers are out there? With the emergence of a Jack Sanborn, do you need or do you want a veteran at a kind of a low value position at Sam linebacker? It's just going to be something to watch out for. But I'm really excited to see these linebackers play because it always has felt like there's something missing in the middle. And with Roquan back, it'll be interesting to see him also at that will linebacker spot and see is anything different overall with this team. But then next, let's keep on moving back. So back in the secondary, Kyler Gordon, like we kind of expected, has been getting starting reps at the outside corner position this previous week. So what that means, it doesn't mean that he's going to be the true starting outside corner. It means that, for one, Eberflus and Allen Williams, they're doing the smart thing. Kyler Gordon will most likely come in like the base defense. When you have two corners, Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson will be your starting corners. But then when they get into the nickel, so you get rid of one linebacker, you add in an extra corner, Kyler Gordon will most likely shift over into the slot. And then you have like a Kindle Vildor or another outside corner like Lamar Jackson play that outside spot. It's a smart choice for the Bears because you constantly have your best defensive backs out on the field. So Kyler Gordon, just somebody to keep an eye out for, number 6 out there. And we saw that it wasn't great his first outing. He got beat on a third down, a couple little poor plays, a missed tackle, but still nothing concerning. You see the raw athleticism. I want to see him at this position, at the slot and outside corner to see. Second game, not in front of his home crowd, so to speak, at Washington. Hopefully the jitters are out and he can just play ball. But the last guy is Kindle Vildor. Kindle Vildor, number 22, he might actually be playing. And just like our wide receivers, our cornerbacks are banged up like crazy. Hence the reason why Lamar Jackson was starting. Now, Kindle Vildor should hopefully be starting. And I'm so excited for this because if they feel like he's going to be the starting guy, then I want to see it. And I know that there's been some talks that, hey, Vildor might be better suited for this system because it's a little simpler from a coverage perspective, but it asks more for corners to be more physical. Vildor has been a good physical corner, but not a good coverage guy. So hopefully he can benefit from just focusing on being physical rather than being a true cover guy. So number 22, Kindle Vildor, I'm excited to see, but also something to just be on the lookout for. Like we said, this roster might be changing. It could happen where Xavier Rhodes comes in. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Xavier Rhodes will actually come in? I know that that's been kind of floated around a little bit, but I could see it happening just as a veteran that has been in this system and succeeded in the system. If we don't have a good outside corner, you throw in this guy and say, hey, listen, you only have to play 2/3 of the time at the outside corner position. We'll go, yeah, I'll take that up. I think he's about 32, so he's definitely long in the tooth, but he's always shown that he's been good inside of this Eberflus type of defense. So if Eberflus thinks that he'll do well, in Flus we trust. So if he thinks it's going to be a good signing, what am I to say if it's a bad signing or not? And if he's not signed, then you know the decision that it would be a bad signing. So that is the first half. So like we were talking about, the starters are going to be playing. It's going to be exciting for us to kind of watch this team ball out. Offense, let's score some points. Let's take the lead early. And now let's get into the preseason. Who to watch when all those starters are gone? Chances are you might just shut off the game. For me, I'm watching it. I actually rewind and just try and watch as much as I can in the preseason. But let's go into who to watch for when everybody's gone. Like I said, this is a little bit more challenging because I don't know if they're going to do, like, are the backups just going to play in the third quarter and then the backups, you know what I'm talking about, play in the fourth? Or the last preseason game used to always be when you have just kind of the scrubs come in. It was the scrub game where you have Kyle Brandt on the call, and I loved it when he would just go crazy on the calls. But to me, the backups, it's all about the position battles. Who's fighting for a roster spot? Who's trying to prove something? And that's why on offense, I'm starting with Darrynton Evans, not Treston Ebner. Darrynton Evans at running back number 21. The big reason why I have Darrynton Evans out here is, why do you need him on this team? That's the question. Because that's the thing. Like, why exactly do you need Darrynton Evans on your team when you have a Treston Ebner, when you have a Khalil Herbert? Because Evans has not been playing great. It's not like the rest of the running backs. So I just want to have him show, like, listen, I can do all this stuff. I can be a guy that can pick up the pass protection. That's something we need to see with all of our running backs. Just block somebody as they're blitzing to help protect our quarterback. Am I right? But next, besides the running backs, the wide receivers, yet again, we're going to have Tajay Sharp potentially. He might actually be banged up, but Dante Pettis, if Sharp is banged up, Ja'Tyre Carter is Dante Pettis, number 86, is someone that can fight his way onto this roster. Yes, Tajay Sharp has shown great tape for somebody that we just kind of brought in on a 1-year deal. But Dante Pettis has an opportunity to be like, listen, I know that I was an injury risk, but I'm like the only one that's still healthy. So let me be on your team, because that's going to be something that's really hard when trying to figure out the 53 is going, who's even going to be out here when who's even going to be healthy? That's just going to be absolutely crazy. But next person to watch for, Nomad agrees with this as well. Ja'Tyre Carter, number 69. He is somebody to be watching out for at the right guard spot. Maybe shifts over to the left guard, because to me, this backup right guard spot is going to be interesting. Ja'Tyre Carter, to me, has shown that he is better than let's just say a Zachary Thomas. Can Ja'Tyre Carter show that, listen, keep me on the team because I'm better than Michael Schofield? And that's where Michael Schofield is another person that I'm watching out for, number 64, because he hasn't looked good. I rewatched the tape because I thought that he played good last game, but when I rewatched it, it wasn't bad. It was just like, okay, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and go, he was solid, not bad, just solid at right guard, and not something you want out of a vet. So the guard spot is definitely going to be something to be watching out as a battle. I would like to see Ja'Tyre Carter make the actual active roster, and maybe he takes a spot over Zachary Thomas, but he needs to be showing, you got to keep me here because I'm a good player. Now, also, next, left guard, another little battle. Lachavius Pig Simmons, number 73, the highest graded blocker according to PFF by a large margin. I don't want to say that he was graded elite, but he's like borderline elite. He's been unbelievable. Like, this can't be the same Lachavius Simmons that we've seen before, but he is balling out at that left guard spot. And Zachary Thomas, number 74, the rookie that we got, has not been looking good. I really haven't liked the tape when I rewatch it. He's not terrible in the run blocking scheme, but still, Lachavius Simmons is being like, guys, I'm right here and I'm still here. So I still think Simmons goes on a practice squad, but I think that he just needs to keep showing off what he's capable of and make it difficult that, hey, keep me on the roster, keep me on the practice squad, and don't try and cut me. But also my last but not least is Riley Reef. And I put a question mark there because is he going to be playing with the backups? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that Riley Reef will actually be out there. But just somebody to be on the lookout for. Is 78 actually going to be out there at right tackle? And most likely not, but just keep your eyes peeled. A couple other people to be looking at. Nomad in the comments, he forgot to mention Dieter Iselin at center. Yeah, I totally agree with that because like we were saying last show, when Dieter came in, I was used to him just being bad. Not that great. Goes in at center, didn't look bad. And I know that there was a couple bad snaps. I didn't really see who was at fault, but I didn't think that he was that bad. And you also have Sam Mustipher, who hasn't looked that great. And like what Reload's saying, we need Lucas Patrick back because I really, really, really want to see this offensive line full health, because anytime that something bad happens, it's just like natural response for me to just blame Sam Mustipher. Like just shake my fist. Even if it was like a guy on the outside, I'm just like, damn it, Sam Mustipher, what the heck are you doing out here? So I want to see Lucas Patrick out there because I think that this offensive line will look different with Lucas Patrick at that center position. But let's switch over to this defense. This defense was challenging for me to kind of figure this out. I was kind of thinking about who to watch and who might be kind of fighting for a roster spot. And this was a position battle that I'm really excited to see. It's the two vets at the defensive interior, Trayvon Coley and Mike Pennell. So 79 is Coley, 63 is Mike Pennell. Mike Pennell is someone that we brought in, and it seemed like the position was his. It seemed like, hey, we got a vet. He's all good. Let's throw him out there and keep him on this team. Trayvon Coley, though, 3 sacks in 2 preseason games. Yeah, he's going against the scrubs, but it's 3 sacks no matter what. And he's looked aggressive. He's looked like he can kind of get past some people. And I believe also he's a little younger. I think he's only 68, so it's not that old, and it's not that young. It's right in the prime, I guess you could say, of the career. But Coley, I think, has been kind of slipping up some of the overall rankings and could take Pennell's job, who's been just a solid vet. It's just something to be on the lookout for. Now, the next group, it's not a preseason preview without mentioning the stars of the preseason, Jack Sanborn and DeMarquise Gates. So 57, 43. I want to see those guys out there. I want to see the duo. I want to make sure that I want to see, can they show that we belong on this team? Someone else that I wasn't able to throw on this graphic for those that are watching was also Caleb Johnson, number 92. Because when we start praising Jack Sanborn, praising DeMarquise Gates, now Caleb Johnson is not getting a lot of love. He is somebody that you could potentially just stash on the practice squad. Keep in mind, this was somebody that made the active roster last year, a surprise to many. So is he going to be gone? Or is maybe a DeMarquise Gates going to be somebody that we stash on the roster? I can't see Matt Adams leaving. Maybe a Joe Thomas gets cut if they really like Jack Sanborn and Gates. It's something definitely to be watching out for. But this third game is going to be key for them to show, listen, these aren't fluke games. We can ball. We are smart. We can do this. Keep us on this team, because someone else is going to go, you know, that guy from the USFL, Gates? Yeah, he's pretty good. And somebody might be snatching them and picking them up. With linebackers, I get a little bit more nervous because a Caleb Johnson can make an active roster because of his special teams ability. Because linebackers, they're tacklers out there. So another thing too, kind of moving back a little bit more. And actually, I just want to kind of address this comment. Coley may be the reason LaCale London is gone. And I agree with that. To me, LaCale London never really showed me much in some of these preseason games. So that's why, to me, Coley has. And LaCale London wasn't pushing the pile. He wasn't getting much penetration. Even in the training camps that I went to, just wasn't looking that great. So I'm really curious to see what they can end up doing. But let's keep on moving. But let's go to the cornerbacks, because the cornerbacks, like we said, I think we've only had like 6 cornerbacks actually play, or no, 7 corners play. It's been really, really bad this year, guys. A lot of injuries. But the 2 that I'm watching out for, Duke Shelley, number 20. Is this his last game as a Chicago Bear? It's really starting to look like that. And it's unfortunate. I like Duke. I have a signed autograph from him and I've always liked him. But this could be his final game as a Chicago Bear. But we shall see. And Jalen Jones is someone, I think that I might have put him on my losers for my last game. But after rewatching the tape, I take that back. Jalen Jones, to me, played very well. And he's someone that has impressed. I just want him to kind of continue that, to say, hey, to me, he's going to probably be a practice squad player, but who knows? With the amount of injuries we have, heck, he could be starting for for next week. We never know. But honestly, Jalen Jones is somebody just to watch out for, because he has done well at that cornerback spot. So number 35. But also, next thing out there is this safety group. AJ Thomas, Elijah Hicks. AJ Thomas, number 21, balled out first game. Second game, got plowed over. Actually, no, he got hurdled the last game. AJ Thomas is fighting for a practice squad spot. And I still think that he makes a practice squad, but I think he needs a good game in order to show that off. Also, thank you, THC. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you so much, and bear down. But let's go over to my last person to watch, Elijah Hicks, number 37. He could make the active roster. Right now, Dane Cruikshank is not playing. He's been injured this entire time. And I like Dane Cruikshank. I like the signing. I liked him as a backup. Good special teams upside, can play slot, known for locking down some tight ends if you need them. I hope that Dane Cruikshank can make the team, but the best ability is availability. And right now he hasn't been out there. Elijah Hicks has got to be breathing down his back going, I can maybe make this team. I was drafted by this team. And he's in that spot as that super late round draft pick. I think that he could potentially make this team if he shows some good ability out there. Now, I know that he scored a touchdown last game, but come on, guys. That was kind of a gimme. It was still a good play, but it wasn't like he created the fumble. He ran it back and juked people out. He recovered it, which is what you're supposed to do. Good football move. But I want to see him at that defensive spot. Can he kind of show that, hey, man, I can play? But it'll be a very interesting sight to see with Elijah Hicks at that safety spot. But that's all that I have out there. So as always, I will be posting out these little diagrams so that you can kind of keep it with you as you're watching the game to see who should you be watching out for. Now, like I said before, we will be going live right after the game on Saturday. And then on Sunday night, we are going to be breaking down who's going to be making the Chicago Bears roster as we put together our 53-man predictions. Johnny PayPal will be joining us. And also, make sure to look out for that. I think it's going to be going live at 7 o'clock Central Time on YouTube for those that like to follow the show on YouTube, because I also want to hear from you guys. Who do you guys have on your 53 roster? Because this is going to be probably the most difficult to predict because of these injuries. Who's going to be on PUP? Who's not going to be on PUP? It's going to be very interesting. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to rate 5 stars. And Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.